Hello and welcome to That Pedal Show. Dan here.
Mick here, hello.
I'm a bit excited, Mick.
I am. It's been about a year, actually.
No.
Yeah, we'll go on for the reasons for that in a second.
Okay.
But this is
Wow.
finally, if you look back towards the end of 2017, we did a video, something like Adventures with Universal Audio Aux Part 1.
Mm-hmm.
This thing.
Yes, and we've been promising part two forever.
Yeah. Why is it taking so long? It's taking so long because there was music production involved.
Mm-hmm.
There was tracking and all of that and other stuff. And
vocals. There was vocals
involved. Yeah. Anyway, and everyone's busy. And I don't know, the minute there's any complication involved and more humans than can be physically present in one room at one time, it just... Anyway, we finally got there. And yes, right.
Right.
So what did we do? In part 1, we sat there with David from Universal Audio and he showed us the aux, and it was the first time we'd seen it. For anyone who doesn't know, it is a reactive load attenuator and digital cabinet and microphone and room simulation device.
Very good.
So you can use it to attenuate your amp all the way down to 0, and then via an iPad app you can select different cabinets and amplifiers and record silently.
Yeah. So you can plug your amp in, turn it up to where you like the sound of your amplifier, and then take an output from that, plug it directly into your digital audio workstation.
Yeah.
And without having to have any sound coming from the amplifier, there's a reactive load on there, which means that you can still have it connected to a speaker, but you can turn down the amplifier without it affecting the way that the amp is working into the sonically into the direct
thing. Yeah.
Or you can turn it off completely and just have the sound coming out of your monitors.
And of course there have been many devices that do that basic functionality. Oh, damn, the curtain's up. I've got to shut the curtain. Do me headed.
It's a little insight into the way that
I know.
your brain works.
They'll what you'll notice now is less reflections.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hard door reflections. Yeah. There are many devices that do all of that and have been for a long time. UA did a very different approach to the digital side of the sound generation. And the reason that we bit on that particular fishhook was we used the Apollo 8P recording interface thing with UA plugins, and I'll just say this, it changed our world, didn't it? So from the stuff we were using before.
We used a Zoom recorder, which we were really happy with.
It's great, still use it.
Yep, it sounds wonderful. And we had the opportunity to try the Apollo, and it was incredible.
Yeah, it's 5 times the price.
There you go.
It's mains powered. It's a really serious piece of professional audio recording stuff. But the results that we get now are well, I think they're way better than we had before.
Yeah.
And so, it was worth it and we were really impressed. Therefore, we thought, let's give this a try.
Yeah, because it's the gentleman who was behind the project, James Santiago.
Yeah.
Very serious guitar player. Plays for Dweezil Zappa.
Oh, okay.
Did the Zappa plays Zappa stuff.
Yeah.
And astonishing guitar player. And with his experience and the whole Universal Audio approach to the way they do sound, I mean, it was a no-brainer that we were going to have to look at it. And it's been really impressive.
Yeah, and well, it's a bit of an excuse really, and it's a bit of retelling the truth. But one of the reasons it's taken us a year to get to this point is we have been using it.
Yeah.
I mean, not every session, but we've used it more and more, and certainly more recently. We borrowed this one off Anderton's, and we did a video, not sure when it will come out, but we plugged our 2 high watts in and used it and got a better feel for it and some other stuff. So anyway, if you haven't watched the first video where we sat there in Real World Studios talking to David about the basics of aux, watch that before you watch the rest of this, or watch some of UA's own videos. On to part two.
On to part two.
What did we do, Dan?
We wrote a couple of tunes. So this was fun. What we wanted to do was to get a sense of how it worked in the studio. So we thought we'd find a little studio, someone's little
project
studio.
in
So
Wiltshire.
we went to Real World. Magnificent studio, absolutely breathtaking. And we had my dear friend Dougie Mussard come and play drums for us, which was ace. And
Who's the drummer in the TPS band, by the way?
yeah, he's been my drummer since 2004, and he's just, if I never play with another drummer again, I'm good with that. No, he's wonderful. So we wrote a couple of tunes.
You know what? We should give Dougie a honk.
We should give Dougie a honk. Oh, bless him.
Dougie deserves a honk.
Actually, he's a big leg. Give another one.
Oh, Dougie. It's windy. It's really windy, so you might hear some windy noises from the outside. Anyway, we need to hurry this up, Dan. We wrote some tracks.
Because
we'd been to America to see Analog Man and to also see Riff City.
Yep.
We did that awesome live show.
Yep.
And we were kind of going, have you written your track yet? Not really. So quite a lot of the writing was done on the plane for me. I don't know about you.
Yeah. I was, sort of the day before or the week, 2 days before. Those tracks, by the way, will be available separately on a separate videos. You can go and check those out.
The whole thing. You'll hear snippets of them in this video.
Yeah. So the idea was, we're both used to recording, real guitars in studios. We know how that sounds and feels. How does the aux stand up when we're actually in that environment with real amps mic'd up?
Yeah.
How does the aux stand up to that? That was the big question.
What is the experience? And of course, we're in an altered world there because we've sat here and compared the aux to mic'd guitar cabs, and that's one result. And then you go to somewhere like that, and you're in an altered universe anyway.
Yeah.
Completely bonkers. Right. What gear did you take?
I think we ended up using the AC30 that they had down in the studio. So that was the main amp.
We used
that I was
their AC30.
Used their AC30.
Yeah.
And on the board, I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to approach the guitar parts, but D&M Drive, I actually used the Moore Elect Lady for the flanger in this. Because, again, I wasn't sure if I was actually going to use it, but... and I turned it on, it sounded so good that I ended up, using it for I think, a lot of the track. The one thing that I do with the delays is I have certainly in this clip, I was using the timeline into the Analog Man ARDX20, and what you get is this with the timeline set with like a digital delay. And then that going into an analog delay, and you get this bright, warm thing happening with the delays. And that's
the fan. I'm going to turn the fan off until
we're ready.
Until we're ready.
So I love that sound. That was the majority of what was going on with this, and different gain levels with the D&M.
Okay, well, we'll come back to that in a sec, because what we're going to do in a minute is have a listen to some of the mic'd guitar, the mic'd cabinets and the aux, so there'll be some examples of that.
Okay.
I took our 50-watt Plexi, which is the main rhythm guitar part, and I took my 2-rock, which is pretty much all the rest of it, the solo and some of the other bits of it.
And sounded godlike.
Did sound good. On the board, D&M Drive, Analog Man BC183 Fuzz, Octafuzz by Full Tone.
That's a killer Octafuzz, that thing.
I think I had the ARDX20 delay on my board at that point. And also, we'd just come back from Analog Man, so I had the Maxon OD9
with the bad bob boost.
Modded tube screamer with the bad bob boost. So
that is killer.
I think it's combinations of all of the above, and I don't know if I had the vent by that time, maybe. There's something wobbly on there as well.
Sure.
But what I found interesting about that was, with no kind of clear planning about how it was going to go, and what sounds were going to work, to have that all available. Because my initial thought would have been going in to record something like that, I probably wouldn't take my whole board. I would take only what was needed.
Sure.
It's individual pedals, but it's really nice to have the whole board because, wired up G2 and everything, and power, super quiet, super easy to select between stuff, high integrity of signal path. So it was actually a real boon for recording, because if something, clearly we were on the clock, we had 2 whole tracks to get done in one day, which, I don't know, they probably recorded Led Zeppelin in 10 minutes or something, Led Zeppelin 1 in 10 minutes, or at least for the length of the tracks. So for some people that might sound ridiculous, but for me, and probably you, to record 2 full tracks in a whole day, I mean, that's quite a big deal.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go at that sort of pace normally.
No,
Especially when you don't know what you're playing.
Yeah.
So to have the board there and be able to...
And that was the first time we'd run through the tracks with Doug.
Yeah. So Doug had literally been given a sheet. We sat there. Again, the visuals will tell this story. Acoustic guitar, showing Doug the...
Actually, sat up Real World. Doug sat up going, okay, what are the tunes?
Yeah.
Well, it goes like this. And he just comes on and nails them, was so good.
So, no excuses. No, these aren't excuses. It's just the reality of what happened on the day.
Yeah.
And then... Oh, we had to do vocals. Didn't get the vocals done that day.
No.
I went up to Buckingham with Tom from Universal Audio, who engineered all of it. And we had some help at Real World Engineering as well from the guys there. Yeah,
so shout out to Patrick and Fraser at Real World. They were so lovely, and we just had the best day.
I know. You when you go to somewhere like Real World, you think you're going to walk in there and everyone's going to be like, "You're not cool enough to be here." It's complete opposite, wasn't it? They were so welcoming,
so lovely,
so pro, so unbelievably pro, on a level that I struggle to understand. But
that's what the acoustic guitar goes. Doug, it goes like this.
Yeah.
G, play
A minor.
Right, so yes, and then did vocals.
That was hard. It was the hardest work of the lot.
Right.
Dan and I both sing, but it's not our first thing, and we don't sing a lot. I don't record vocals a lot, so you've just got to get over that embarrassment of singing and feeling okay doing it. And I don't know if for anyone out there who's ever tried to record vocals, it's like all the red light fever you get of recording guitar times 1,000.
Yeah, of course.
Because you're trying to find a voice and you're trying to find a place for this vocal that you're singing that you haven't been out and gigged 50 times.
Yep.
So,
but we've talked about this a lot, and a really important thing with that is, and I certainly say it to myself all the time, get over yourself.
Yeah.
Just
no excuses.
do it. No excuses.
It is what it is.
Absolutely.
Open your mouth and sing, and whatever comes out, it'll be fine.
Yep.
That's what I keep telling myself. And again, Tom was just... I don't think I wouldn't be able to produce myself recording in that way. There's no way I'd be able to make the judgment calls that he made.
Okay.
And the sort of encouragement when it was required. Yeah. And the...
No, he was magnificent.
That carrot and stick thing that a good producer will do.
I've only known Tom in his role at Universal Audio, but seeing him in his role as a producer...
Oh, man.
Just magnificent.
Yeah.
So what we wanted to do today, in mixed tune, there's a solo that happens.
And yours, we're doing both.
We're doing both. But we'll have a quick look at mine. But specifically, I wanted to have a look at the solo section in yours because it's killer, and it builds. You've got like 3 levels of sort of dynamics in there, where it's there's a cleaner thing, then there's a more boosty overdrive thing, then you kick on the octafuzz to finish, and the way it builds dynamically is fantastic. And I'm really fascinated to hear how that sounds, because we actually have the stems. We've got the version of the aux.
Yeah, it's the finished mix of each source. So there were 3 microphones on the guitar cab. We've got one example where we can break each of those 3 microphones down, but we've got the finished mix of the 3 mics and the aux mix.
Right.
And it's wet. It's got all the effects on there as well. So what you're hearing is what ends up in the track, and you're just hearing it soloed out.
Yeah.
Which is a whole other interesting cause for discussion.
Yes.
What we don't have is just the straight out of the cab sounds without any production or effects on it.
Okay.
We don't have that because I think we'd end up diving 58,000 miles, and then you get into discussions about should it have this plugin, should it have that plugin, and those are literally endless combinations by that point.
Sure.
So we're not doing that. But what we are listening to is the mix of the mics on the cabs and the direct sound from aux. The tracks themselves, the final finished tracks themselves are all aux. There's no mics anywhere.
Right.
So, okay. For the purposes of Dan and my memory, we're going to listen to the track. Should we do mine first?
Do yours first.
We're going to listen to it, and then we're going to come back and discuss it just to... so, yeah.
Okay.
Just got up. We're running faster, but we're running down. Still things are looking up. It's taking all of me to keep a sense of sanity, but it's painful all to see that it's never, never enough. You know it's never. Just got up. We're running faster, but we're running down. Still things are looking up. Hey! You know it's never enough. You know it's never enough. You know it's never enough. Oh, it's never enough. It's never enough. It's never enough. It's never enough. You know it's never enough. It's never enough. It's never enough.
Gotta be happy with that.
I am. It's weird. So forgive us the indulgence. It's massively indulgent to record your own music and listen back to it and share it with you guys. But, you know, that's what we're doing. So stick with it. Yeah.
It sounds ace.
I
It
really
sounds
am
great.
happy with it, actually.
You should be. It sounds fantastic.
You know, so, right, at the beginning, what I wanted from the Two Rock and the Strat was that big John Mayer-y, somewhere between John Mayer and Stevie Ray, bell-like and that I think that was the 2-rock and maybe the Bad Bob Boost,
Right.
or it might have been the Tube Screamer but set super bright.
Okay.
And then the main rhythm guitar is the Collings into the Marshall. That is a little bit crunchier than I would normally go, but I think we had it turned up, had the Marshall cranked and attenuated into the aux
Oh, right.
to get so all of that is just the amp. There's no pedal.
So the 2-rock, you're using the 2-rock cab, and the 2-rock cab was also modelled in the aux.
Yeah.
What cabinet were you using with the Marshall?
The vintage 4x12. So our 1960X with greenbacks, and that was what was modelled. It's important to say that we modelled the same cabs in aux
That we were using.
that we were actually using.
Okay, cool.
And that was crunchier and hairier than I would normally go for. And I think what we've discovered about the attenuation in the aux is that it seems to add a bit of that.
Right.
It adds a bit of the physical attenuation. It adds a bit of hair and crunch, and
Yes, of course.
it seems to be making the amp work pretty hard.
Yeah. Because even at its most open setting, it's still attenuating.
Yeah.
A bit.
Yeah.
It's not wide open. So that's okay. That makes perfect sense. Okay, interesting.
And
Very interesting.
then, and it's just layering the parts up. The solo, I will shamefully admit, was a comp of a few takes because I hadn't quite got the chord changes right towards the end, and it took me a minute just to get that. But
Yeah, but you had 3 different sections,
yeah,
right?
Let's have a listen
to it.
Here's the guitar solo using a combination of an SM57, a Bayer M160, and a Neumann U87. So,
Hello.
3 pretty industry standard mics there. Sounds like this.
Right.
That. Hang on, wait before we make any observations.
Okay, and
here's exactly the same thing using the aux. Okay. So obviously there's another guitar dubbed in over the top at the end. This one or that one? Oh, man. Sorry, I've got to keep doing this. It drives me insane otherwise. I wish I didn't have fans in them. Wet. Really, really, really wet. I was running loads of reverb in the amp, and Tom's obviously added more.
Right. Nice.
And it's one thing to say about mixes that you can quite often add lots and lots and lots and lots of reverb and delay, as long as it's the right reverb and delay to sort of tie it all together.
Yeah.
And clearly not in every genre or in every style of music, but I'm always surprised when I hear stems.
How effective they are.
How wet it can be.
Yeah.
The mics, to me, the mixed mics had quite a lot of nose on them, super nasal. A lot of high mid-range, I would say, in terms of the aux, less so.
Yeah. There's definitely a difference.
Yeah.
The aux is impressive. It's definitely, when you hear it in the track, it is really, really impressive. There are small things that you're never going to get away from in the studio. The size of the room that you're recording in, the stuff that's sort of lying around that's adding to the the reflections, the the idiosyncrasies of the cabinet and all that stuff. Where exactly are the microphones placed? That's all going to have an effect, and it would be impossible for Ox. Well, sorry, not impossible for Ox to model all that stuff, but totally impractical.
Too many variables.
Too many variables. So what they've done is they've narrowed everything down to really good solid tones.
And if you think about what you're talking about practicality, the actual practicality of doing that. So the Two Rock cab and the Marshall cab were off in a separate room with a like a patio door type thing, soundproof door. So actually, the interaction of me and the cabinet wasn't happening. We talk about that a lot, right?
Yeah.
We talk about being in the same room as the cab, and that wasn't happening at all. The interaction that was happening was through Real World's
monitors,
£200,000, whatever they are, monitor system. So there was interaction happening, and there is feedback happening with the guitar. When I step on the octafuzz to go to the second part of the solo there.
Yeah. And it was loud in the room too.
It
and
just takes off.
Magnificent.
And I don't know if you noticed, there's one bit where it sounds like I play another note. I don't. It's sustaining, and I think I bend up to another note.
Yeah.
And because I didn't need to hit the guitar again, it was off. It was doing everything.
First note.
Yeah. That bit.
Yep.
I didn't need to hit the guitar again. It was already doing everything I wanted it to do. It was really interesting because we hadn't practiced the songs a lot, and because I needed to just retreat into my box and play something super familiar. So it's it's a combination of Stevie Ray, John Mayer, and Albert King. That's what that solo is. Just put my Best Doyle Bramall hat on and went.
Stevie Ming.
I just need to play inside myself for this, and don't need to play anything clever or anything. And I actually think it suits it because there's nothing tricky.
Dude, it's killer.
I play over the chords, which is again something I almost never do.
Yeah, but you
nothing fast, nothing tricky.
There's a key change happening before that goes into the solo. It's like, I love it. I really think it's great.
I'll tell you, that comes straight from
Bon Jovi.
No, it comes straight from John Mayer track on his last record, Changing.
Okay.
And it goes, I'm still changing, and off he goes into the guitar, the heroic guitar solo, which changes key, and that I took that straight from there. And he's not the first person to do it, obviously. So yeah, I got I'm super pleased with that.
Look, I think it sounds fantastic. It's a as far as demonstrating the Ox is concerned, why I really like this is because of the different dynamic elements in the solo.
Yeah.
So listening to it now, after, because you having played it, because we were monitoring with the Ox as well, weren't we?
Yeah.
So what's your impressions hearing the mic'd cabinet compared to the Ox?
I think the environment of being at Real World is so alien anyway.
Right.
And we're in that massive live room, which is also the control room. It's very hard to be objective about it compared to being sat in the... I mean, clearly it was very different than being sat in the room with your amp when you're recording. It wasn't that at all.
Sure.
So by that point, you're just happy to go with it and play to the environment. And I was probably thinking more about the parts than I was the sound. So we've done the typical guitar player thing and focused all on the solo. Actually, the rest of the track is probably more interesting in terms of the way the guitars come in and out. Dan played Gretsch harmonising the bit in the breakdowny bridge bit, which really adds to it massively. But yeah, I mean, we've said it many times, haven't we? The sort of interaction of you sat there with your guitar in a room, feeling it and loving it, and feeling inspired, probably during the writing process.
That's the most important thing.
I still want to hear it, and I still want the guitar to interact with it. But actually tracking it and listening to those two together, it's not like I'm listening to Ox going, oh God, I wish we'd used the mics.
Yeah.
On the contrary, in fact.
Yeah.
I think it sounds great.
Yeah. And if you think of, like you're saying, with all the differences in the room and that sort of stuff, what the Ox gives you is that level playing field that, that amp is always going to sound like that with the Ox, Yeah. Well.
And if I'd come home and had to do any overdubs.
There you go. That's what it would have.
It would have been fine.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have needed the studio and all the rest of it.
So, you know, one of the things with the attenuation in the aux, you know, when we did the 2 notes versus the aux thing, the aux turned off, you know, as in the attenuation turned off. So without a speaker cab at all, aux plugged into the amp, plugged into the aux is the load, and you're plugging into your computer. For me, that's where the aux absolutely shines. And I can see myself, you know, because I'm absolutely going to bully you into doing loads more of this in the future, because A, it's so much fun, but it gives context to a lot of stuff that we do.
Yeah, sure.
And the aux having the ability to take my board and a couple of amps home and hear them, you know, like that. I think it's fantastic.
And I think we've said, haven't we, that we think there are other products that do this straight attenuation job a little better.
Sure.
Just for a bit of balance.
Yeah.
You know,
the attenuator is always on, even in its most open setting, and that does colour the way that you know what you're hearing out of the cabinet. And there's also that position between 3 and 4 that you just, it's like,
well, I just want 3.5.
3.5.
Yeah, so I don't know, maybe that's some feedback for UA if that's possible for a future update or whatever.
But for the you know, recorded sounds into the door, that's professional talk for digital audio workstation.
Into Pro Tools probably, I would imagine.
You know, I think it's fantastic, and even and you can hear in that environment with, you know, those, with the cabinets and those 3 mics and everything turned up. It's
well, seeing as you mentioned the 3 mics, before we move on to your track, I've actually got my intro bit.
Right.
I've got the 3 mics separately and the aux mix of all 3.
Okay, yeah,
so let's have
do
a listen
that.
to those, which I think will be interesting. Where are you? Switch. Here we go then. So this is my Collings. This is this guitar. Which, well, I don't need to wax any more lyrically about that guitar. I blooming love that guitar. Into the 50 watt plexi with the plexi turned up and attenuated by aux.
Right.
And as I said, this is a little bit scratchier and crunchier. Had I been listening more, had I been less nervous about all the people in the room, had I had more time to be critical, I would have changed this. Okay? Which is not an excuse, it just is.
Okay.
And sorry about the wind. Right, this is Bayer Dynamic M160, which I believe is a ribbon mic.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
This is an SM57. And this is a Neumann U87 large diaphragm condenser.
Right.
And finally, this is the aux.
Yep. Can you play the 3 mics together?
Might sound weird because they might be phasey,
Okay.
but let's hear it. This is all 3 mics.
Interesting.
I will have to do a mix of those for Simon when he does the edit.
Okay.
So I should also say that the Analog Man ARDX20 is on there on a short delay as well, which is what that
Nice.
little short delay is.
Awesome.
So crunchy. I mean, it does sound like that guitar. That guitar's got that crunchy bridge pickup, and I think it's just pushing the front end of the Marshall slightly into that harsh world that, again,
Right,
like
that
I said,
bright cap.
had I listened to it back, I'd have just brought that back a bit.
Sure.
But
with the really interesting thing with that guitar sound is where that sits, because when the other rhythm guitars come, could you just play the track again
yeah,
and have a listen to when the other rhythm guitar tracks, because you might listen to that sound and think, yeah, I'm not into that, but have a listen to it in context with the rest of the band. It's so cool. See, with that, there's an edge to the track. Without that,
yeah.
there's everything's lovely and big and clean, but
It's doubled as well. So the stereo, so the chorusing you're hearing there is because it's doubled and split left and right.
right.
And then when the Strat comes in with a 2-rock, it's just super bell-like and clean and sits over the top of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Largely thanks to Tom, but works, doesn't it?
Fantastic.
Okay, so yeah, there's a bit of hair and there's a bit of in there, which is in the amps as well. But I think I'm hearing it more through aux than I'm hearing it through the mics themselves.
Sure.
Could be an EQing thing, could be a production thing. Don't know. That ever so slight digital artifact edge that you get when there's any AD conversion going on.
Yeah.
You do. I mean, it's there.
Sure.
We shouldn't gloss over that, really. I'm pretty sure I can hear it in pretty much any guitar sound. So if you add it up
Yeah.
and you duplicate that many times over many tracks, does that all adds up and means the final track is
it
less
doesn't.
organic?
Yeah. Well, it
sounding?
doesn't. I don't think it. 7 digital artifacty guitar sounds going to make one nice
Yeah.
organic analog guitar sound. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Because it is. It's a factor
Yeah.
thing. With the aux, and yes, it is doing all the processing and it is digital. And it's not as if the two sounds are exactly the same, but what that's down to could be a number of things.
Yeah, and I also think trying to do exactly the same thing is folly anyway, because all you'd have to do is take a different amp in or move the mic 2 centimeters
And it's all different again.
or mix
Exactly.
the mics ever so slightly. It's not, you're always dealing with moving goalposts in
Yeah,
that respect.
exactly.
So trying to just replicate slavishly is really not the point. The point is getting a sound that inspires you out of whatever gear it is that you're using.
Because we're recording digitally anyway.
Yeah.
We're not recording to tape.
Oh, don't even start that. I've been looking at tape machines. Oh.
We were
Let's move on.
in Japan last week, and we were at Boss's studio, and they've got this amazing old SSL in the R&D building,
Yeah, like a £400,000.
and these old tape machines, and they're all in working order and ready to go. It's like, oh goodness, it's so good.
And the engineer's like, yep, we never use that anymore.
No. We use 2 channels of the SSL. That's it.
That's it. Right, Dan, this is yours. We're going to have a listen to Dan's track,
Oh heavens!
which I don't believe Simon's heard yet.
Have you not?
Not finished.
You lucky thing.
Ah.
You're in for a treat, mate.
Hang on.
Brace yourself.
Thinking maybe I should go. Think I'd better go. I think I'd better. standing too close to the sun. I am torn and twisted, held together like a seam that's undone, burned and blistered. I'm standing too close to the sun. I am torn and twisted, held together by a dream that comes undone.
Idiot.
Nailed it. Cool.
Right.
Right, first observation, Neil Finn is in you in the way that Stevie Ray, John Mayer are come through everything I play.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's great.
Oh,
I will
bless
just
you.
say as well, on the vocals, doing the harmonies and everything, it's such good fun
Yeah, it's great fun.
to just to piece that together and have the time to
Yeah.
put it together. I picked this up because we've got a bass. Hooray.
It's great.
We recorded our own bass for both
We
tracks.
did.
I took a bit longer than Dan because I'm a totally rubbish bass player, so Tom had to quantise my bass playing a bit, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Literally, I finished the take and went, "You're going to have to fix that, mate," because I can't play bass for toffee. So, but you did yours like one take on
But
the money.
It was more ass than class. It was. So yeah, and then the guitars were quite simple. It was had the AC30, and that was turned up, like, you know, really moving some air. The basis of it was the D&M Drive, and the flanger for the solo bits, and a short delay from the ARDX20.
Yep.
And in certain bits, you also get the delay from the Strymon as well.
Yep.
One thing I've started doing, when we were in Japan, I found the DSD2, which is the digital sampler delay, which is a DD3 with an added sampler. It's exactly the same. Exactly the same circuit, same chip, same everything. And so I'm now using that with the ARDX20 as the digital and the analog thing. Oh my word! It's unbelievable. So anyway, I just wanted to get that in there. Yeah, so that's that. And then, but I was trying to leave as much space, between the little phrases as possible. And so that when you came in with the second part of the solo,
Dan insisted that I played on it, which was very magnetic.
No,
I was like,
well,
no, play on it.
No, it sounded.
Yeah,
it was. You kicked the tremolo on.
Yeah.
And played over the top, and it just sounded so good.
And I was just trying to do something absolutely opposite from everything you'd played, so in a completely different...
In time and in tune.
in a different frame of mind, so it sounded like two different people playing.
Yeah,
so.
no, it was, that was very, very cool.
I've got some of your stems here.
Oh, do you?
Hang
on, don't move. Oh, I missed him, sorry.
What was the fly?
Yeah.
So... This is Dan's running into Dan's solo part, I think, with the mix of the SM57, the Bayer 160, and the Neumann U87 on the AC30.
Okay.
Yep. is that? Is that the Gretsch?
No, that's the telly.
It's your telly?
That's my telly.
Man, so where's all that mid-range coming from then?
That's the AC30.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, exactly the same thing. Sorry, we played more of the into it, but here's the aux mic mix of the same thing.
Okay. There's a rotary thing on there as well.
Did you put that on there, or did Tom put that on there?
I think Tom put that on there.
Okay, I'm just gonna. Let's hear that in the context of the track.
Okay.
The same guitar part. I think we're roughly in the same place.
Yeah.
I'm done. Just trying to find my way out of my own
That's blooming fascinating, because you hear just the solo guitar track. I mean, as we've said many times, it just sounds all angular, and you're like, God, that sounds a bit, kind of honky and weird. And then in the context of the track, it just sits in there.
That's what a producer does.
Yeah.
That's what the producer knows.
Makes good decisions.
Yeah. If you just put all massive fat guitar sounds in the track, it ends up just being a mess.
Yeah.
You've got to have. Joey Landreth was talking about Blake Mills. I don't know Blake Mills, so I can't.
I know. Joey needs a better honk though.
He does.
Joey needs like kind of we need a separate horn for Joey.
So he was talking about Blake Mills' production techniques.
Yeah.
And he was saying that if Blake has a really thick, luscious guitar, he'll put in the most angular, nasty, obtuse-sounding guitar
Next to it,
just to balance it up. Yeah. It's like, yeah, absolutely. And he'll even do that if not just running parallel, but if he's got a guitar part that's really nice, he'll then balance it up the next part of the verse with this, So it's all about balance, even in that sort of context. Wonderful.
Yin and yang, and yin and yang, everything.
And what that angular guitar part does, it gives more depth to the big, juicy guitar part. Magnificent.
Fantastic. Okay.
What have we learned, Mick?
What have we learned? We started out this process wanting to listen to aux.
Yes.
And make a decision about, does aux sound good? Does it sound like microphones? And what we've ended up doing is knocking on the door of something that I have felt a massive need, and you have too, that we need to do. Because we sit here week in, week out, chumming on about guitar sounds which we love dearly to our heart, but it doesn't have very much to do with music.
Yes.
So we have tried, inadvertently I would say, to create some music, and in so doing have started a whole other journey, and have some things that have become more interesting and more relevant and more contextualized by that. And weirdly, in this instance, aux has been the vehicle that's enabled us.
Yeah.
to think differently and try something different and actually have a really interesting experience making music.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're doing.
So we're starting on a new journey, people, and thank you very much for being on this journey with us up to this date.
Nothing's going to change.
Grateful.
Don't panic.
No, it's all good. But we are going to give you. The plan is that there is going to be some context to a lot of the stuff.
More music, which you can either engage with or you don't need to engage with if it's not for you. But we need to, in order to keep all the other stuff relevant. So
absolutely.
And I would like to say thanks to Ox for giving us an opportunity to kick that off.
Yeah,
to actually
Audio and Tom
go in
and
there
guys.
and listen to ourselves back and go, all right. Honestly, I promise we'll finish this in a sec. One of the reasons that I stopped making music is because I didn't sound like all the best rock music ever made.
You're so funny.
So I listen to the music I make back and go, well, that doesn't sound like Led Zeppelin. And you just beat yourself up about your creative output because it doesn't match. It's not better than the best thing you've ever heard. Which is insane.
It is insane. But I think
that's going away.
Yeah, good. You have this. Look, you got the highest standards of anyone I've ever met in my life. I'm like, I played a right note. Come on, Dan. And however, I swung too far the other way.
Yeah. Well, I'd rather be prolific than not doing anything at all.
Sure. I'm highly prolific. It's just, every now and then I hit a right note. But there's balance within that. I'm genuinely excited about hearing this stuff in context, seeing what this stuff inspires us to create. I think it's going to be fun. I mean, that was so much fun doing that. It was so
the potential
much fun.
Downside is it's taken us 1 year to make 2 tracks. So
no, I've got a schedule.
And actually, to be fair, the recording time was 1 day.
Yeah.
The mixing and vocals and all of that was probably another 2 days.
Yeah.
So it probably took 3 days,
there you
maybe
go.
4. And for some reason, we managed to stretch that out to a year. Anyway, okay, enough. So thanks to Tom and UA massively for enabling that whole thing to happen.
Yeah, wonderful.
Because it was quite a trip.
Yeah.
Being in there in real world and doing that and just having a new experience and feeling inspired again, which ultimately is what it all comes down to. And I think that kind of supersedes the question of, does Ox sound as good as a mic guitar cab? It sounds pretty good, and you can use it in great music. And for me, that would be true of all kinds of gear. But I think we've leapfrogged the original question, perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's interesting or not, but it feels like we have.
Definitely. Well, thank you for watching. A massive thank you to our preferred retailers in the UK and Europe is
Anderton's Music of Guildford, Surrey.
In the US of A.
Riff City.
Sorry, Simon's swatting flies away from his head. I thought he was doing a dance. All right, so US of A.
Riff City Guitar of New Hope, Minnesota, and Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Might be North Dakota. Don't want to get that wrong.
Very keen to head back there.
We are.
And Australia.
Pedal Empire of Brisbane, Queensland.
Well, wunderbar.
Brown Fuzz t-shirts.
Brown Fuzz.
Back in stock.
Bran.
And we've got some new stuff coming soon as well. So head over to the That Pedal Show store and check out some stuff there. Keeps us rolling and keeps us being able to do stuff like this.
Yes. If you're listening on the podcast, a massive hello to you and thank you for that.
Literally no idea. I upload it every week. Haven't looked at the stats. Don't know if anyone's listening. If you're listening to the podcast, let us know.
Yeah, let us know. That'd be great. And finally, massive thank you to our patrons on Patreon, guys.
Thank you kindly.
Yeah, so grateful. You enable us to do what we do, and we really appreciate it. Have a fantastic week. Looking forward to hearing what you guys think about this.
Yeah, these
show,
tracks,
actually.
we're hoping to get them on iTunes. There'll be videos, so look out for them. Again, is another way of helping us keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah,
so
brilliant.
Check them out.
Have a great week. We'll see you next week. Bye.